Romance of Sui and Tang Dynasties, Chapter 34.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Where are we?
We start in the Qingshu Yuan. It's a new garden retreat, and it's been meticulously designed to look like a mythical place, the Peach Blossom Spring.
The famous inaccessible utopia.
The very one. And this whole scene is about how that high theater of pleasure and the serious business of running an empire can actually overlap in a single afternoon.
So the emperor is with his favorite consort, Qinfuren.
Right, and they're relaxing by a canal that's just been built. It's man-made, connected to the West Capital's big Taiyi pool.
And they see something in the water, something that sort of jars them.
It's a very specific image. They see fine, fresh peach petals floating by.
Okay.
But mixed in with the petals is something really odd. Humafan.
Sesame rice.
Sesame rice.
Yeah.
And the inclusion of that rice is the crucial details, what makes the whole thing click.
So Qinfuren sees this, and she's immediately captivated, she thinks. Immortal source.
Right.
Why that immediate jump to something so mythical?
Because that specific image petals and sesame rice is basically the key to finding paradise in classical literature.
You mean from the story of the Peach Blossom Spring itself?
Exactly. In the Taoyuan Ji, the story, a fisherman finds this hidden utopia by following floating peach blossoms upstream. The rice is the culture detail that proves it's a direct reference. She thinks nature is copying literature.
But the emperor, he kind of pulls her back to reality, doesn't he?
He does. He reminds her, look, this canal is new. We just had it dug. It's not some ancient magical river.
But the mystery is still there. The petals are real. They're fragrant. And it's not even spring.
And they're flowing continuously. That's the part that proves it isn't an accident. It means someone, somewhere, is actively creating this illusion.
So it's an engineered moment of spontaneity.
Perfectly put.
And that completely changes the feeling of the afternoon, right? It's not just leisure anymore.
No, now it's an investigation.
So they get into a small dragon boat to follow the stream, like an imperial stakeout.
They follow the water, they round a bend, and there it is, the source.
And it's a young woman.
Yes, Tua Niang. The text describes her as a shy 15-year-old palace girl. She's wearing a purple silk shirt, and she's squatting by the water, sprinkling the flowers in by hand.
So this whole magical scene was just her manually doing it.
All her.
But wait, if it's summer, where did she get fresh peach blossoms?
That's where her ingenuity comes in. She explains it. She'd been preserving the flowers since the 3rd month.
Preserving them? How?
In a wax box.
Yeah.
To keep them fresh and fragrant. This wasn't just some simple task. It required planning, foresight, a little bit of, practical science.
That's impressive on its own, but the real kicker is the rice.
The cultural literacy, yes. The emperor asks her why she added the sesame rice, and she just casually says she'd read the Taoyuan Ji herself.
She knew the reference.
She knew the very specific literary reference was what would complete the picture. This tells you so much about the court. Even service staff were expected to have this kind of cultural sophistication.
She wasn't just making a pretty scene, she was performing a piece of literature.
She created a moment of, engineered authenticity.
It's a bit like how people today stage these spontaneous moments for social media that are actually planned down to the last detail.
That is a great comparison. And just as they're having this, intellectual discussion about performance, the mood shifts dramatically.
It pivots on a dime.
Qinfuren uses this story about the Peach Blossom Spring, a story about escaping a corrupt world to launch a political critique, a really sharp one. The tension goes from this pastoral happy moment straight into imperial criticism.
What does she say?
She argues that the Qin dynasty, the dynasty that first unified China but was known for being ruthless, was full of jianza.
Cunning and deceit.
Right. And that it should be a cautionary tale. She's using a literary conversation to question the very foundations of how emperors rule.
That sounds incredibly risky. I mean, she's saying this to the emperor's face. How does he take it?
He's smart about it. He doesn't defend the Qin emperor's morality. He defends his legacy.
What's the difference?
The difference is everything. He ignores the talk of corruption and focuses on the huge, world-changing infrastructure projects. He points to the Great Wall.
Chang Chang.
And he says, look, it's been 700 or 800 years, and that wall is still protecting us. He frames the first emperor's brutality as a price worth paying for achievements that last.
So he's changing the terms of the debate. It's not about ethics, it's about permanence, about infrastructure.
And by doing that, he's also justifying his own massive projects,
Yeah.
like the very canal they're floating on. It's a brilliant piece of self-defense disguised as historical analysis.
But Chinfirin doesn't let it go. She's the pragmatist again.
She is. She brings it right back to the present day. She says, sure, but after all this time, the wall is decaying. It's falling apart.
She warns him that if they don't fix it, the very disasters it was built to prevent could come back.
And that is the moment. The critique that started with floating flowers actually succeeds. It forces the emperor to think about his administrative duties.
And he agrees with her.
Immediately, he says, yes, repairing the Great Wall is my responsibility. And he promises he'll dispatch people for a repair soon.
Wow. So he literally goes from debating ancient history to adding a massive item to his imperial to-do list.
All in the span of a few minutes. Then he adds one last point to his defense. He praises the Yipang Palace, another huge Qin project, as proof of their heroism.
He's celebrating the scale of it all?
The capacity for monumental building. And to make his point, he decides they need to get the book they're all talking about, the Qin Shi Ji Shi. So the whole group heads over to the Jingming Yuan.
And here we get another total shift in tone. They go from this heated outdoor debate to the cool interior of a palace hall.
Right. And inside, they find Emperor Xiao, Yuan Xian, and Liang Firen. They're cooling off, playing chess.
This is where we get that famous bit of courtly wit.
Oh, it's wonderful. The Empress gets up to greet the Emperor, but instead of a formal welcome, she teases him for wandering off.
She says she posted a Zhao Ji
A lost and found notice.
for a romantic emperor that she had carelessly lost.
And the details are the best part. A reward of 500 silver for his safe return.
But only 50 for information.
The whole court just erupts in laughter. It tells you so much about the dynamic. This isn't just a joke. It's a sanctioned performance of their relationship. It humanizes them.
A pressure release valve.
Exactly. In this super formal environment, you need moments like that.
So while they're all talking about the chess game and the emperor is giving advice on how to spot the eye on a piece, the mood changes again.
The flutes start to play.
And then comes the scent.
A powerful rush of hefeng. The wind off the lotuses just fills the entire hall. It's an immersive sensory experience.
And they look out, and there are 20 or 30 small boats on the water.
Just loaded with lotus flowers and filled with palace beauties singing the lotus-picking songs.
This is the grand spectacle, the big payoff for the day.
It's pure, curated excess. And the women are all splashing each other and getting soaked, and they run back laughing. It's this image of planned but joyful chaos.
And then a banquet is served on these dragon grass fine mats.
The night ends with drinking games, passing the flower and striking the drum, until the emperor is completely lanzui
Thoroughly drunk.
and he retires with the empress.
Emperor Yang had been drinking. He falls into a very heavy sleep. And then within an hour, his wife, Empress Xiao, and the concubines are they're completely alarmed by this terrifying outburst.
Yeah, the sources paint an unbelievable scene. The emperor wakes up, he's in a silk canopy, and he starts screaming. The description is mountain shaking and earth moving.
It's that intense. He's clutching his head, shouting over and over, "They are beating me to death."
And then nothing.
Just silence. He immediately collapses back into a deep unconsciousness. Empress Xiao, she summons the imperial physician, Chao Yongfeng, who, he quickly gives him a kind of tranquilizer and pain relief soup.
But it doesn't really work.
The relief is minimal at best. The emperor is completely unconscious for a grueling 24 hours, a full day and night.
And this is where the political reality just crashes in for the concubines.
Yeah.
The story shifts from the emperor's bedside to this very fearful, very pragmatic discussion among the women.
Exactly. This isn't just about grief. This is about their own survival. Their entire existence hangs on one man's pulse.
And that fear is just, it's visceral, isn't it? Concubine Zogi is weeping, and she basically says, look, if he dies, we know our fate. We become wives to fierce soldiers or arrogant troops.
Their high status is so temporary, it's held in place only by the emperor being alive.
Hold on, let's pause there. This fear, was this a guaranteed social ruin? Or was it worse? How fragile was their position?
It was worse. Historically, their entire worth was tied to the ruler. Devotion had to be absolute. And the threat of total social and physical ruin was very, very real. They had examples right there in their own court.
Right, the sources mention a concubine. Who had self-hanged.
Yes, because of her unhappy status. And another, Wang Yu, who actually considered self-mutilation just out of gratitude for the emperor's kindness.
So their decision to act it's a survival mechanism. but it's dressed up as this grand act of piety.
Precisely. Which leads them to this group vow. A concubine, Yuan Bauer, suggests a prayer, a really dramatic one. She says they should all offer to collectively reduce their own lifespans by 10 years to save the emperor.
But Zhu Jie, she takes it a step further. A huge leap, actually. She seems to realize a prayer might not cut it. And she remembers this extreme custom, cutting flesh to save a relative.
The ultimate act of filial devotion, only here, it's not for a parent, it's for the ruler.
Yeah.
This is really the absolute peak of political devotion in that era. The text says she rolls up her sleeve, exposes her wrist, takes a small dagger.
Oh, wow.
And with one swift cut, she severs a piece of her own flesh. She collects the blood and flesh in a silver bowl and then quickly dresses the wound with incense ash to hide what she's done.
A secret physical sacrifice.
Yeah.
And she tells no one. So while Empress Xiao is preparing the next dose of medicine, Zhu Jie steps in.
She intervenes, she takes over, and secretly mixes her own finely minced flesh in with the drug.
It's like medieval political medicine.
And the result is, well, it's stunningly rapid and politically very convenient. Within an hour of taking that dose, the emperor starts to stir, and eventually he wakes up.
And his explanation for what happened, this is crucial. He says the pain was from a dream, that he was struck on the head by a huge club wielded by some fierce-looking warrior.
Exactly, which, for the court, validates this spiritual fear they've been feeling. An official, Di Quaxi, he hears this, that the emperor was injured by a phantom warrior, and he is immediately convinced that ghosts and spirits are absolutely real.
So convinced he just quit.
He quits. He completely abandons worldly affairs and heads straight for Zanyan Mountain to seek Taoism.
So the court is psychologically unraveling. One official literally runs for the hills because he thinks heaven was just attacked. But at the same time, the physical machine of the empire was working overtime to build a new reality, wasn't it?
That's the pivot. The speed of it wasn't just indulgence, it was political necessity. The crisis demanded an immediate, huge, and very visible re-legitimization of his authority. While he was sick, an official named Yu Shiji had finished all these mandated projects, widening the imperial road, building new pavilions and bridges.
So they transitioned from a near-death experience to this massive, organized spectacle. Just days after his recovery, the emperor holds a grand banquet for all the officials in the West Garden.
And it is pure aquatic extravagance. It's designed to project limitless power. The banquet is on the water, the emperor is on the dragon boat, above everyone else, while the officials are on these smaller phoenix boats touring the North Sea and the Five Lakes.
And of course, a recovered emperor has to command praise. So poetry. He demands poems from everyone to commemorate the event.
And not to be outdone, of course, the emperor composes 8 pieces himself in the Wang Jiangyan style, which is significant because that style was known for being light, aesthetic. It's pure indulgence and escapism, not serious statecraft.
And you can see that from the subjects, right? He writes about the lake moon, lake willow, lake snow,
lake grass, lake flower, lake women,
lake wine, and lake water. Yeah, definitely not about governing.
But the celebration wasn't over. Empress Xiao then suggests a night tour to enjoy the autumn moon and show off all the new buildings.
And the emperor agrees, but of course it has to be on a massive scale. He demands a grand parade with thousands of guards on horseback, and music has to be played while they're riding.
And he caps this entire arc from crisis to recovery by composing a brand new song just for the parade, the Qingye Yu Kwa. But what's fascinating is the content of this song. He's celebrating the smooth imperial road, the thousands of carriages and 10,000 riders.
But then comes this moment of incredible, almost self-aware irony. He includes a rhetorical question right in the middle of this song about his own excess. He basically asks, how many rulers can maintain virtue while pursuing this kind of ultimate extravagance?
That question is the key to the whole performance. And then comes the final sharp twist. He sends a copy of this new song, the one celebrating his own opulence and his willingness to risk his virtue, directly to Zhu Jie.
Zhu Jie, the woman who saved him.
The very one. She isn't given a title or riches. She is given a task. She is instructed to teach all the court beauties his new song for the event.
That is a stunning piece of synthesis right there.